excited group tonight. Beth and I were just talking, we hope that's attributed to the beautiful weather, but I will go ahead and call our meeting to order at 7:03. Can we please do our roll call?
Yes. Charisse. Ah, hi, I'm here. Gloria. Erica. Beth.
Yes.
Lupe.
Here.
Dan.
Here.
Mark.
Here.
Oh, Mark.
Mark, too.
Okay, Jane. What time?
On the phone yet.
Okay, we're missing Beth tonight. Oh.
No.
No, not Beth, we're missing Barb tonight.
Good try,
We start getting too neat. Okay, we're missing Barb tonight. You're not missing Beth.
Okay. Do we have any additions, corrections, or modifications of the agenda tonight?
Oh, Gloria just unplugged. I'll try it back.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, we have an approved and full agenda for the evening. Do we have any public comment tonight? Okay. Then we will move right along to the first of several exciting presentations. So first we'll welcome Stephanie McMahon and Darius White to talk to us about the REM study results.
Thanks. And it's
Swap that. That one's Carol.
okay. Oh, sorry. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Stephanie McMahon, Economic Development Department with the City of Urbana. Darius White, my colleague, we work together. And we'll get a little PowerPoint up here for you. Tonight we're just sharing some ideas that we are kind of putting out there. We aren't moving forward with anything yet. We've just been talking to Celeste that are coming out of the public realm study we did with some ideas to activate the downtown a little bit more to help our businesses and encourage people to come downtown. So tonight we're just bringing you some of our inspirational ideas. We have a lot of Pinterest pictures to get people excited. It's not a very long presentation, but we would love to have your feedback and comments, suggestions. Charisse, I'm glad you're here because we haven't brought this to the city yet. There is money that was budgeted to roll out some activation for downtown public realm, but these are the first steps. We need to get some answers from you before we can put together a final plan and a budget and go to our people and see what we can actually get done. Yes. So, from Kurt's slide is great. You want me to stand back there and?
Why don't you, yes, please.
Okay.
I will let you take it.
Sure. Sure.
As far as my knowledge goes.
So those of you not familiar with the public realm plan, the city embarked on this starting last year. We hired a firm called Confluence to look at our public spaces in the downtown and how we could better use them. So the purpose was to make recommendations to enhance the public realm and to improve the appeal of the downtown Urbana as a place to visit, live, and do business. So the big ideas that came out of this study, and it's a big 70-page document if anybody wants to read, so I highlighted it in just a few bullet points. Connect the market to Main Street, create more music and event space, provide multifamily and affordable housing downtown as more people living downtown would be using businesses and patronizing more, create a civic gathering green space, focus on pedestrian and bike infrastructure, and also install some identity and wayfinding to help visitors find their way around the community. In addition to Confluence, we worked with a group called Project for Public Spaces, and one of their big concepts once we received this 70-page document is to try some cheaper, lighter, quicker projects first before we invest in permanent infrastructure. So the inspiration I'm going to show you tonight are some ideas we have come up with to try lighter, quicker, cheaper, lighter, quicker, I always mix them up, that we would like to potentially try, and they involve the lots owned by the Urbana Free Library out here. And so we're focusing on that because they are publicly owned. So this is the lot. I know, attractive picture. So this is the north lot on the corner of Race and Green, the northwest lot, right out here where the Races sculpture is. So if any of this were to move forward, the Races sculpture would need to be relocated. So to another prominent place where it could be enjoyed. This is one of our inspirations that we saw for creating an event space for the downtown, and we kind of like this idea of bringing in a container that could be modified into a stage for events for the library, for the township, for the city to activate with anything from a reading hour for kids, or the township has said they do educational sessions on gardening, outdoor stuff. We could have our arts program bring in music. And so we like this idea because where the lot is, we see Ray Street as a real entertainment hub. We hope the new owners of Iron Post are going to be doing some work. We saw a dumpster out there. And then, of course, Rose Bowl doing entertainment. So there's a lot of activity happening along Ray Street. So if we were to go with a concept like this, we would purchase a 20-foot container, have it modified. It would open on the one wide end and two small ends. We would wrap some type of art on the outside, as we have wrapped utility boxes, murals on glass, that type of thing, to make it an artful piece. The interior would be customized so that it would meet the needs for activation as we wanted it best to. We would also buy some type of seating, and I'll show you some different ideas that could be stored in the container when no one was using it. And this would be modified so one person could open the container and pull out chairs, and it would be ready to go, is what we hope. The other idea we're talking about, we have 4 Urbanas, and so far only 1 has been reserved this year to be used downtown. We may get more reservations, but if not, an idea we would like to propose trying is installing the Urbanas on the corner of Race and Green to kind of define the space there, and buy cafe tables and chairs so people could come and have lunch and be outdoors. It would set them up just a little bit higher in a defined space, and could watch the entertainment from there or be a part of whatever activation was happening. These are a couple of different seating ideas we're just kind of exploring. One idea is keeping small benches out that would be out all the time. So even if, because the platform would be out all the time, so even if children were playing and do an impromptu performance or something, that would be there. Otherwise, I like the sling chairs, but I also know they're very hard for people my age to get in and out of. So there might be a combination of type of chairs that we could purchase and have available to be pulled out and used. Another idea we've talked about, Darius and I, over the past few years, that there's no big visible thing for people to take their Instagram shot of downtown Urbana. So we're looking into the possibility of purchasing a large U or a logo of the city that could maybe be lit up or spotlit, so it would be a photo opportunity for the community, visitors, people coming, that represents Urbana. And we could also place that somewhere on this lot, that it would be another gathering place. And as we're thinking of all this, we're thinking hotel opening, guests coming and going, seeing activity, the library's here, and having a nice little area that we're trying some fun things. Another idea that was brought to us was actually putting in solar-powered planters, and this type that was referred to us actually move and kind of dance with music or sound as it happens. So this is one idea if we needed to define the space further with light and movement. This would be another idea that we might like to propose. We would, one thing we're looking at is electricity, and I have a call into Ameren just to see what options are available to us. There is a utility box, a rather large one, in the Urbana Free Library parking lot. So we would be looking to see if we could install a 100 amp pedestal from that utility box to the lot, and then we would have to use extension cords for the stage. Potentially for pop-up vendors, there might be room that we could either build some little huts, or we could try just tents first if we wanted to allow people to sell a few things. And we would need electricity, of course, for lighting and instruments or amplification on the stage. For the south lot, we've been investigating several different things. I know the south lot is just across the street on the southwest corner, and the township has some gardens there. This picture was from Google Maps, so it was before the building was torn down. So the things we're suggesting here are inspirational at this point. We're looking to see if we could find a local person who could build them. But one idea is to build some pieces that are artistic and look nice and are intriguing, but then give a nice place for people to sit down and either swing, or we can't provide the mountains, but provide some type of, which we would love to, but something like that where there would be a table and a bench and it would kind of frame an outdoor seating or enjoyment area that would be safe. So if there was activation happening on the north side, people could be over there sitting, or something like this could be installed in and around the gardens that the township are interested in also doing, so it would be could also be more a quiet space. We would probably try to bring in some games, kind of a permanent bags game, or tic-tac-toe, or just some little outdoor things that could be activated by kids or adults who were wanting to hang out in the area, just something to do. Those would be very easy to take care of and bring in. And then some additional planters that may help define the space and cut off the lot from the road. So if people were there or children, there would be a divider from the road and the lot. So, and I just did the raised beds as an example because I know the township has a lot of raised beds. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we would like, what we think are some ideas that would have some merit, but we are open to ideas, suggestions, concerns. Like I said, this is all just inspirational right now. We would take your feedback, go back to our team, and go back to the city. Cherise.
I was thinking while I was watching that, switching the two lots regarding where you would put the cargo thing, and maybe during the summer you have not just a bigger space for outdoor activities, but maybe twice a month, a movie night. You could use it for a theater. People could come and bring some wine or cheese and whatever and sit down and do a little garden movie, old movies.
Yeah.
Something like, Gone with the Wind, and well, I don't know about Gone with the Wind, but but something like the man that killed Liberty Valance or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, just something to get people out. Yeah.
So if I can interject also, you mentioned the township. So we work with Cunningham Township. They rent the lot closest to them for $1 a year, and they do programming on it and have the different garden beds. Mm-hmm. And then we have the teen open lab, butterfly garden, and then the little free library. So we're in conversation with the township to also potentially lease to them part of the strip of land that Stephanie's talking about. They are getting a grant for more garden opportunities for people, working with Solidarity Gardens CU. So talking with Danielle, talking with Stephanie, we're trying to think about, the space is not as large as what you're thinking is what I'm saying, given what part of the space the township will want to be able to move ahead with their projects to serve the community. So, and I have been given as the director, if a lease is under $18,000 a year, I'll negotiate that for the library, and we charge them $1 a year. So that's not a decision that you have to worry about. So that will definitely move ahead. It's good for our community, and we'll just expand the partnership that we have. So we thought it would be helpful to move the performance space closer to the library, because if we wanted to expand and have a bigger program, especially if it was after hours, we could expand into the parking lots, so we could have more people. Yeah. But we actually started. No, that's true.
We started on the north side and then flipped it, and bathrooms closer over here and that kind of thing.
I hadn't thought about that.
So
That's me not thinking.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We've flip-flopped a lot.
But I like that. I like that cargo idea. The issue, of course, would be also seating and so on and so forth. But people could bring their own.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you have different, different body types and different ages and different all of that. You you want people to be comfortable on whatever they're sitting, or they can bring a blanket, and they could, okay, and I'm just saying this because I lived in Louisville for a while, and Louisville has, Shakespeare in the Park in the
Yes.
summer.
Mhm.
Okay, Louisville, I used to go do Shakespeare in the Park during the summer. You bring a quilt, you bring some red wine, some cheese and some fruit, and it's all good
Yeah.
for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And I wish, I've been wanting to hear an idea like that, something like
Yeah.
that here. Of course, we don't have a standing Shakespearean theater group, but but just something like that. Another thing that in LA, in one of the cemeteries, they would have movie night during during the summer and up to Halloween or
Yeah.
something.
Cool.
And one of the historical, like where Rhett Butler's buried and all that kind of stuff, or one of the historical, I think it was Forest Lawn, one of the Forest Lawn cemeteries. They're the big farm of cemeteries out there.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of historical, like tombs and everything else, and they would set up a sheet basically, and people would sit on people's graves and check out the movie.
Yeah.
Um,
I will add that part of this would be if this was installed, we would collect data on the usage and see, do people like it? Are they using it? And that could lead, if it was well used, well received, and everybody loved it, that could lead to some potential permanent change investment. And we can pick up all of these pieces and move them and try them in a different lot. Or if it's not successful, we can pick up and move them to a different lot and try it there. So we're looking to, the only permanent change would be potentially that electric pedestal, which could then be there or taken out if need be.
So, yeah, I'm always thinking practicality of being outdoors, which I love being outdoors, and truthfully, we've got about a 6-month outdoor season.
Right.
And so I'm thinking of some of the ideas and saying, all right, some would really be well used in our good 6 months, and you can almost stretch things a little bit, but when we're looking at maybe like the outdoor tables, just the peaceful tables, well, that might not be the best match for when we do blessing heat in the summertime and freezing cold in the wintertime.
Yeah.
The cargo container, that you can actually stretch your seasons a little bit because it lends itself more to that. So I like the idea. I like the idea of having an event space more than a peaceful sitting space. We've got some darn good parks, and I think if I was gonna look for a peaceful sitting space, personally I'd probably go and take advantage of one of our wonderful parks. But what I really like is having outdoor event spaces. And so, I think there's some great ideas here, but just feedback, I'd be thinking of our seasonality.
Yes.
And I'd be thinking of, okay, if you're going to be trying things out, you could try the cargo space. You wouldn't necessarily try the Urbana Instagrammable photo thing because that sounds a little more permanent to me. So unless you could.
Actually, Darius he's done some research on the big U and.
Yeah, as far as the U itself, it can be moved. It's pretty simple. It's actually something probably our public works would be able to do, but if necessary, we would outsource. They have quite a few options of anchoring it, as well as adding weights within it. So that is one thing that we did want to make sure that everything at this point that we're suggesting is movable. Even some of the things that we're suggesting, such as cabanas and things like that, naturally they would be taken down in November and then possibly go back up May to June. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's my input.
So I just had a question, just thoughts about safety and security. So I love the idea of adding lighting. I think lighting is something that's important, particularly, again, if we go to seasonality, we sometimes, have our shorter days. I think lighting would be important from a safety and security standpoint. I like the idea of delineating the space or kind of bordering the space facing the roads. But what about it from a liability standpoint for structures that are either there or things like that?
Yeah, we do have insurance on our budget list, and that would be a question we would be taking with our proposal of where does that get covered, and is it part of the city rider? Do we try to work with the library? at this point, we have a lot of questions to answer to, and that's on our list. Yeah.
Gloria, did you have something?
Just that I really loved the idea and like think that there could be a lot of amazing stuff, of course, done with the programming, but also with the rapping, like featuring work by like the Urbana Poet Laureate, for example, or some of the other artists that have been featured around with like the utility boxes and things like that. And I think it, one of my questions that you answered was like, who can use this and how, and it sounds like you're gonna be talking about a little bit for like how this can be a shared community space.
Yeah, we would be depending on the library to do some activation, hopefully township, and then our new art specialist could keep a calendar if somebody wanted to book it. I don't see it being booked for like children's birthday parties, but like if someone wanted to do a Shakespeare night and promote it, we haven't, and I don't think we want to set a fee for that, but there could be some question of liability if someone was going to use it and host an event there, they would probably have some additional responsibility.
Also like the idea of having that as an event space, especially if you're able to wrap it with art. More of that around town is great. My question came with, obviously there is that need for electricity there. How is that working when you're putting something else there? Is that is that built directly to the city, or is that tapping into ours? And so I ask this because we've had a number of conversations around the Emery bill.
Yeah, and that would be a question if the city was able to put in the infrastructure there, could the library foot the bill for the electricity, or would that be something we would have to discuss with the city, and it could be metered separately?
Well, and I think, incorporating solar options into any kind of planning would be really important as part of the sustainability, and economic feasibility.
We talked about if the stage could be solar, but we're not sure the amplification and lights would be, you might be in the middle of a show and everything would go down. So, but yeah, we're very curious to explore those options too as much as we can.
Yeah, I think it would be a great way to present it to the community as well, just the sustainability of the project.
Right.
Just to add, even if we were getting some of the wood itself, like we kind of spoke about benches, but that's still just all preliminary. But we were even talking about getting that from LRC, getting it local, doing things local, using some of our local talents to create some of these things. So definitely, and as far as the solar power, our best option may be some of the uplighting and things like that, that can obviously pull in enough power to put out. But we definitely had that discussion with the stage itself, and they were just concerned as, enough power being stored. And we would hate for mid-concert someone to lose power. So, yeah.
I was just thinking in terms of the planters, which are so pretty, those could be solar powered.
Those were solar powered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but I think those would I think something like that would be a nice border and also a gateway into downtown Urbana, bringing,
Yeah.
Regarding the use, I think that's something that would serve better on city property.
Oh, okay.
Actually, like right there on Vine Street, big U, kids could play on it. Yay! Yeah. So,
That's what we want it to be stable, so if anybody does climb up on it.
It just made me think of the whale and the bear that used to be in
Lincoln
Square.
Square. Yeah.
And that was where we headed every time my mom took us to Lincoln Square, regardless of what she was getting. She knew where to find us. We would be in the whale.
Yeah.
Or on the whale, and it's better, Shree's quirky, come on, Taco. So it was always, it was a babysitter, that particular piece of art that was in Lincoln Square for many years. And so that's why I was thinking something like that would probably serve well, just being on city property, maybe not here. We don't want too much stuff, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
a lot of people don't even know where the city building is.
Right. Yeah.
I think a good welcoming piece of something.
Yeah. And if you have feedback after we leave, you're welcome to call or email us. We'll make sure, as Celeste has our contact information, or you could let her know and she can let us know. Like I said, none of this is approved, ready to go, but it's just first steps. So if you had major concerns, we would just pull everything back and regroup.
And I think first of all, I wanted to add one more thing. I love the library having the opportunity to be a focal point of this in the entertainment. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. I think from the board standpoint, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share the ideas.
Sure.
And I think what would happen is once we get to that next step, we would be looking as a board as an intergovernmental agreement, and just kind of working on some of the details with our fabulous library staff.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so
Thank you,
much for
guys.
having us tonight. So,
Okay.
leave it up here, Bryn.
And it looks like we're gonna do a technology switch here real quick, so. So we are welcoming Sarah Bennett now to talk to us about the Storch Photography Collection and Illinois State Historical Records Advisory Board grant.
I think I have it, yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah. I'm one of the archivists from upstairs. It's so nice to be here. We've been working on this for over 6 months, and then the grant started much before that. So this is exciting that we're in the final stages. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe are newer board members, the Champaign County Historical Archives has a mission to collect, preserve, and make accessible the history of Champaign County from its founding to present day. So that's a really broad mission and encompasses a lot of things, but we have a few main categories of material that we collect. So we hold the court records from the Champaign County Circuit Court, as well as Champaign County's vital records. So those are really large collections that have a lot of patron usage. We also have over 300 special collections. Those range from local families and businesses to organizations and clubs. We have a really strong collection of different women's organizations through the years. And then besides our special collections, we have a variety of other types of archival material, from oral histories, maps. We have a book collection that's reference only, nothing gets checked out, as well as lots and lots of photographs. All right, so the Stephen Storch Photography Collection, we have been working on this grant since October. Storch was a local photographer. He moved to Champaign in 1968 and opened his business, Storch Photographic. He was also a chemistry teacher at Urbana High School, so he did a lot of photography for Urbana High School, sports teams, events, that kind of thing. And he photographed all types of life events, from family photos for holiday cards to weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, graduations, sports teams. Sometimes we'll see family names pop up for different photo sessions. There was one I saw in the beginning that had high school graduation and then a few years later a wedding. And so that was really exciting to kind of see locals' lives play out within this collection of negatives. So the collection contains over 45,000 negatives and a small number of photographs. I would guess our photos are around maybe 100 or 200 right now. The negatives format is mostly 6x6 Kodak color film and 35 millimeter film. That's the strips. So when we received the collection, it was donated in the original Film Lab envelopes and glassine sleeves, like the one pictured. It was roughly alphabetized and divided into two different series, weddings and non-weddings. We started working through the non-weddings first, and now we're on the S's in weddings, so we're almost there. And you can see if you look at some of the little details on this envelope, they include subjects' names, years, dates, the photos were taken, and then sometimes event information like birthday, graduation, family reunion, and then weddings all say wed on them. Okay, so our project has 4 main focus areas. Yay! So our first focus is rehousing the negatives. The envelopes and glassine sleeves, the envelope that you saw in the previous picture looked like it was in okay condition, right? Nothing scary, no spider webs. They're not all like that. They are paper materials from the 60s until 2000, so there are various stages of decomposition happening. So the most important thing for these negatives is to get them out of those materials and into preservation quality sleeves. A lot of the original materials are acidic, which just quicken the degradation time for the negatives. So that is our #1 priority, getting them out and then into buffered envelopes and boxes, which actually the buffered material sucks out some of the acid and stops kind of the timeline for decay. Well, it doesn't stop, but it extends it by a solid, decades. So once we are rehousing the negatives in buffered envelopes, we transcribe all that good label info that we got from the sleeves to the new negative, and then we are indexing everything. We are keeping the original order of the weddings and non-weddings. It just makes it a little bit easier to search through if you know someone's looking through a wedding or for something else. So we're keeping those 2 original series. This index will be searchable and available in the collection's finding aid, just like any other finding aid for a special collection in our catalog. And all of the names will be indexed, which we expect to take a really long time because there are thousands. All right, so the next focus is digitization. Because the time and virtual storage space required to do digitization, we could only pick a small fraction of the collection to do. So we selected negatives from the debutante ball, the cotillion, and I'll talk about the cotillion more in a few slides. And these will be available on Flickr for access copies, and then our preservation server with really high quality copies that are, we can give them out and share them if people request, but it's good digital preservation practice to hold back a really high quality image. And then our last component is outreach. So throughout the project, we've been writing blogs and social media posts about our progress. We've also had a News Gazette article go out, and we'll do another one at the end of the project. We presented a poster at the Midwest Archives Conference in April, and we also plan on doing some community outreach. All right, so here's just an overview of where we started and where we will be by July. So the collection came to us in November 2021. And then we found out we won the grant in July of this past year. It was a cost-sharing grant. The Illinois State Archives gave us $26,000, and our share was $3,200. These amounts covered materials as well as staff time. All right, and then once the money worked through the system, we were able to start working on it in October. And at this point, we just started rehousing and then thinking about the index and how best it could be organized based on what we were finding. So by February, we had completed the first chunk of the non-weddings, and then we opened the wedding boxes, and it was like, they were packed. There were so many more. It was clear we had our work cut out for us, but we kept going. So our archives apprentice, Nicole, her main focus on this collection was digitization. So she completed the digitization of a little over 1,800 negatives. We originally planned to digitize 1,000 negatives. That was what we wrote in the grant to do. But then we found 3,000. So we're just going to keep going and keep digitizing. So that was exciting. It's a good problem to have. So Nicole also started Flickr albums for us for those digitized negatives. For anyone who doesn't know, Flickr is a photo sharing website that we use for a lot of our digital collections. In April, we attended the Midwest Archives Conference and presented a poster about the Storch collection. And then during all of this, we're continuing to rehouse. And then between now and the end of our project, we will finish up the last bit of rehousing and indexing, and we're also planning on submitting an article to Archives on the Web, which is part of the Midwest Archives Conference newsletter. It's a regular article they have. So by July, we will be done. All right, so right now we're 83% processed. We started with 48 linear feet. That's the unit we measure archival materials in, and we only have 8 feet left. So we're getting there. And then we are 60% of the way digitized of those 3,000 negatives that we found from the cotillion. But we have surpassed what we originally set out to do with 1,000. Okay. So the Cotillion Debutante Ball began in 1972 and is still held every year. Storch was hired as the photographer for a range of years between their second year and his death. Storch's son is also a photographer, so I think we have images from 2001, which is after the senior Storch's death, and we think that his son stepped in to complete that year. So the Cotillion is a local debutante ball that celebrates African American high school girls who excel academically and are super involved in their community. And then it also provides scholarships. And it's sponsored by the Gamma Upsilon Psi Society. One of the reasons we selected the Cotillion as the subset of the collection to digitize is that it fills in gaps in our local historical record. Oftentimes we do not have the material representing our community in diverse groups, especially when you add women on top of that, it's even less. So when we found out that these images were in this collection, this was a no-brainer that we wanted to share and make available and make sure it gets shared with the public. Okay, just to wrap up, so far we are at over 300 hours working on the Storch collection. Our initial estimate of over 45,000 negatives is still looking to be accurate. It might be a little bit more. We've had 6 staff members work on the project over 7 months, and at the bare minimum, there will be 2,000 community members' names added to our catalog at the end of the project. So that will be a huge increase in the representation of not just our patrons, but people from the whole county. All right. Let me know if you have any questions about this or the archives in general.
I don't have any questions, but I have comments.
Yeah.
I am a Cotillion person from 1979. And
You're not, oh, you're on Flickr.
I'm
I'm looking at the albums, they're amazing.
serious. So I'm a 79 alumni of Cotillion. I'm so excited when I saw this on the agenda. I was like, maybe I should take my Cotillion pictures in.
Yes.
I was really, but Mr. Storch, and that's how I always refer to him, because he was a teacher at the high school. He photographed everything, regardless of what the event, the group, whatever. He photographed every year that I went to Cotillion, including the one that I participated in, that Storch was there. He photographed our black ball. You may come across some of those. Black ball was kind of like a black prom. Even though it's Urbana, prom wasn't exactly the place where all the black kids would go to celebrate at the end of the year. Black ball was actually inclusive of Champaign and Urbana high school students. And that would be held someplace else, at a different venue. And he photographed black balls. He photographed graduation pictures. Now, as far as graduation pictures, what I mean is the extra graduation pictures, because the high school, whoever did the yearbooks, did the ones that went into the yearbook. But if you wanted extra, like you wanted to take graduation pictures with your girlfriend or whatever, which is what my brother did. So I was in on that photography session as well. So we have storage pictures from that. I have pictures of my mother and father from every cotillion that they went to as well. So there are just, when I saw this, I just got so excited, because I'm like, this is a one person in the community, even though he lived in Champaign, taught in Urbana. He lived right next to my voice teacher, actually.
Oh.
So I used to see him all the time. But Mr. Storch covered so many different events in the community, Urbana, Champaign. But the one thing that I always loved about him was that he was liked by every group, any group that he would be called into, and he did very good pictures and very good sittings. So I just want to say I'm really excited about this collection. I'm so glad that you got it. No, you didn't. Oh my God.
Look at that for accessibility. She got that just like that. That's a testament. Excellent. Does anybody have any other questions or comments for Sarah?
I just want to say Jocelyn Storch, well, not Storch anymore, Jocelyn Gorhofsky, who's Stephen's daughter. She didn't know about this, and I shared it with her, and she's
Oh,
so proud.
great.
She's one of my oldest friends.
Oh, wow.
We were in middle school, so yeah,
Awesome.
she was thrilled.
Cool.
I'm just so excited. I almost cried. About this
I'll tell her the lovely things you said.
Sarah, thank you. I wanted to say it was a beautiful presentation, so
Thanks.
thank you for that.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. All right, I will turn it over to Dawn for building project and building program updates.
This will be quick, but we've now had 2 virtual meetings with Robert Anderson, and I gave them initial designs and even, color palettes and furniture options. And this was both for the Cirque AV area and for Megan's room. They've given us some rough cost estimates, and it was definitely shocking but not surprising when the cost estimate came in. So we were working with them with different options, places, what? Where is it? This? Okay. But anyway, we're working with them to kind of revise it, get some different options, and see what we can do in terms of the price. And then we've also had some initial conversations with Engberg Anderson about the building program and how the building's actually being used, and do we think that where do we really need to focus, and we need more space, and where we're okay as we are. So the first meeting was, I think, an hour and a half, and we got about halfway through, and we'll have a second meeting and power through the rest of it, and then hope to have an update for you all in June. And we also received a report from IMAG. They're the engineering firm who's working with us on the air handler project. And they gave us their recommendations, which we also included our technician, I don't know if his proper term, but he's worked on the library's HVAC systems for years and knows it better than anyone. And so he was able to give them some insights into the building and areas to look at. We had another meeting with them today, and we gave them the go-ahead to start putting together a request for proposal so that we can get actual bids from contractors. The part that's a little sobering about this, in addition to the price, is just the supply chain issues. And it's gonna take some time to put the bids together, and it has to be posted for a month. So we're talking about, like, they're thinking maybe August that they would have something together and then have it up, and then maybe get bids back in September. And they're thinking realistically that we would not be able to get equipment in for probably 12 months. So what we're talking about is we'll probably have some money going out in fiscal '24, but we're really looking at the bulk of this project being fiscal '25. And if it can go faster, if the supply chain stuff improves, then we'll, of course, do it more quickly. But we're gonna have to really have some conversations again with Davis Hauk, who's working with us, to try to see what we can do to baby the system, because it has to get through 2 more cooling seasons. We were hoping for just this summer, but realistically, it looks like next summer too. So we're really gonna have to just, well, hope for the best, but also pay really close attention to maintenance and optimizing and making sure that we can adequately cool it for 2 more seasons, realistically.
So Dawn,
So.
can I ask a question? What happens if it doesn't?
We haven't talked about that yet.
I don't like to
We
put that
haven't
out
talked
in the
about
universe,
that yet.
but with supply chain issues, that's a really scary
It's really scary.
possibility.
But the fact that that didn't come up makes me think that with proper attention and proper maintenance, that we can, reconfigure what's there to get as high as we can in terms of capacity and also keep it going.
Which could also be a tremendous expense, as additional expenses.
We're gonna try to minimize it, that's for sure. But I mean, one of the big expenses would be coolant, refrigerant. It's the kind that our current system takes is a more expensive option than what most of them use right now. So they've said several times they wanna minimize what we have to put in to keep it going, but at the same time, pay attention and do what's necessary. So I think it's just, we're gonna have to be very vigilant in terms of that.
Some of the components are already broken, so it's not running at 100% right now. We're at about 50%, and if they move a couple of pieces around, it'll be more efficient. So that's part of what Dawn's talking about, is maybe we can get up to 75% efficiency by fixing a couple of things and then see how long we can stretch that out.
Is the coolant issue an issue about obsolescence? I know with our air conditioning thing, it's the coolant is no longer made, it's been EPA'd out, so to speak.
Sure.
And so like anytime we need coolant in our house, it's like they wanna charge now up to $500 a pound for that. Is that the issue?
I'm not sure of that exactly, because HVAC, not my area of expertise. I'm learning a lot. But I know that the coolant, they said specifically that the one that ours takes, I'm not sure if it's obsolete, but it's expensive. So putting a bunch of coolant into the system right now is gonna cost us a lot of money. So, but in terms of obsolescence, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's on its way there. This is the 1975 unit.
Oh, gosh, yes.
So, they don't make them like they used to, but, so I feel like we're really fortunate to have gotten it to this point, and that's because it's been taken care of over the years. But you're right, at a certain point, it's like technology, they're not making it anymore.
Right.
So this whole exercise has been like, thank goodness we're talking about it now and not when we're at critical point, because then what do you do? Because there's nothing to be had in terms of getting the system here quickly. So we'll keep you posted, but yeah.
Who, can I ask, who is it that we normally use to maintain or replace the HVAC system?
Well, we haven't really, the last one that got bid out was a bid process. And I don't know, I wasn't involved with facilities, and I can't name the contractor that put it in, but Davis and Hauk has done preventive maintenance and regular maintenance on our HVAC for many years.
Okay. And we have a new, we've already bid out who is going to replace.
No, we bid out the engineering services, so they are designing it for us, and they'll prepare the bid for us, and then it'll go out, and the contractors will look at it, and it'll have specifications that they have to meet, and they'll say, okay, it will cost the library this much to fulfill these expectations, replace it. So I guess there's representatives that they work with, and, you know, we can specify a brand of air handler if we wanted to, might not, because, you know, there's different price points involved. But it's a multi-step process, but they're designing it because what they have to do is they have to take the air handler out, and then it has to feed into the current ductwork, because we're not gonna replace the air ducts throughout the whole library.
Exactly.
So they have to design it in such a way that it'll feed into the ducts, the existing ductwork.
Dawn, you are becoming a regular.
I know. Mike has said, Mike's gonna get me a tool belt. I'm so excited. My father would be proud. My father who couldn't fix anything, so.
Well, we are grateful for you taking up the cause and learning all about it for
It's
us,
been-
so.
It's been fun. I've enjoyed it more than I ever thought I would. But, yeah.
Anything else, Dawn?
Nope, that's it. So, yeah, we'll keep you posted month to month.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Celeste, a strategic plan update?
You probably have seen that the strategic plan survey, the community survey, is on our website. We've been reaching out to our community partners. We've reached out to the library board, the Friends of the Library Board, the foundation board to spread it. We've reached out to city council members. You got an email today, Cherise. So we're asking everyone to spread the word. So please tell your friends, please tell not your friends, tell everyone to fill it out so we can learn more about what our community would like to see at the library. We have the 3 in-person focus groups coming up, the 16th and 17th, 2 online and 1 in person. The in-person one is at 6 o'clock, is at noon on the 16th, and then the 17th and the 16th at 6 o'clock are the Zoom ones. And they're on our website. People can register in advance. So we're super interested to see what's coming. We're still gathering different data sources to see how our community is represented in, like in the United Way funding, what are problems, what are challenges, what are opportunities that we see. So as we get the feedback from different levels, we can overlay that with demographic and other information. And it looks like the city is gonna have an extra count done for the census. That will happen too late for us, but we're watching that too. So that is a thing that's moving a little bit ahead with the city too. Maybe we can get over 40,000 people again. So those are the 2 things that are happening, and then we'll be scheduling the management team meeting after all the data has come in from what Amanda and her colleagues have learned to share with us. Then the management team will look at the existing plan, see what we've learned, and bring together our recommendations to you, the board. So we're thinking July or August for the management team meeting, so August, September, hopefully to have a draft for you. Any questions or comments about that? Okay, great. So I will put this on because I'm going to need all my hands for talking.
Well, while she's setting that up, so yeah, just another kind of push to make sure everybody's getting that word out and sharing it widely so we can get really strong representation.
And we've had a number of people reach out already, either to Becky or to me, to ask questions about it. And if people say, well, what kind of skill set do you have to have? I love what Becky says, which is, we want someone who loves the library. So maybe you're an attorney, maybe you're an accountant, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe you're any number of things in our community, but what we're focusing on are people who love the library and want to serve, because we can help you learn the things that you need to be a good board member, but starting with that goal of success of the library is where we want to start. So I encourage everyone to apply, and then we'll have a good pool. And we have 2 board members who will be coming off. Jane and Barb are not asking to be renewed, so that, you know, we have 2 people right away. And then it's good to have other people in the pool as well for other changes that come about. And the foundation board is looking for new members as well. And last time we had a pool of people that had reached out to be on the library board, we went through and did make a couple of, we asked a couple of people, would you be interested in serving on the foundation board? And one of those people, Elizabeth Rockman, is actually the foundation president right now. So we do like to be able to offer people ways to serve in different ways. And so good opportunities for us to engage more people in our community with the library. So fiscal 24 budget updates. I have a couple of things for you. There were some changes between what I put out Friday and now. We just learned on Wednesday last week what the estimates would be for, at a higher end, the audiovisual and Megan's room work that would be done. And it was $1.2 million, and we all went, woo, that was a higher price point than any of us thought it might be. So got that information out to you Friday and was super happy to have it all there, and then realized I had got the air handler information in the actual spreadsheet, but not the 1.2 million. So sorry about that. What you have in front of you now is an updated budget spreadsheet, and I will tell you what a couple of changes are. There was, I will start at a high level. At the very back, you're going to see the fund balance statement. So you might want to take a look there actually first. And you should also have from Becky, which you don't need to pull out right now, but you are welcome to, is a fund balance statement. It's 4 pages, stapled and double-sided. This is what the city pulled for us in April as what the computer system, Munis, thinks we will have as fund balances based on the spending that we have. What we have experienced in the past is that we have more going into fund balance than Munis thinks. So for example, over the past 7 or 8 years, we've had between $100,000 and $200,000 in unspent staff wages go into the fund balance to increase it. So I feel very confident, and we are underspent in most of the departments right now with wages as well. So I feel confident that between $100,000 and $200,000 amount will be an extra amount going into the fund balance. In part, we know that Donica, as the department director of archives, is no longer with us, and yet her wages still are there. And one of our other colleagues, Amanda, who is in charge of safety, she also has left and has been replaced. So we know that there is money that's going to be unspent. Also in some of our other lines, not utilities, like we're going to be spending utilities, but we definitely think that there will be potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, at least a couple, going into the fund balance, which then could be spent on these projects. We don't anticipate spending the amount of money that we budgeted necessarily. As Dawn mentioned today when we talked to the HVAC engineers, they don't think we're going to spend all the money in fiscal 24 because it's not going to really get installed likely until fall of 24, which is the next fiscal year. But on the off chance it does move quickly, we wanted the whole amount of money in this fiscal year just in case. So we don't think that's going to happen, but it could happen. So we're trying to be really, very realistic about what could happen. So you've got this document. There's going to be a change. There's going to be a difference between what you would see if you look at the 810 fund statement on the 4-pager, and then at the bottom of this sheet. So if you want to pull them out together, or I can just tell you. Yep, so there's 4 pages that are together, and one of the pages says 810s at the top. Mm-hmm. It says 810 Library Trust Fund. And it says ending fund balance $260,000 basically. That's because we anticipated spending $300,000 on A, the staff parking lot, and B, the Circ AV. Like we just didn't know how far we'd get with that this year, and the answer is basically not far at all, just hiring the architect and starting the process. For ease of budgeting well, what I did is re-budgeted the whole $300,000 for next year. Obviously, we won't spend it on things that have already been spent this year, but you're going to see in the bottom of the actual budget sheet a higher fund balance because we're assuming the money wasn't spent, right? We know that we've re-budgeted it, so there's a difference in there, but that's why, because it's safer to budget as if it wasn't spent, because we don't know what all the bills are that are going to come through. So obviously we'll only spend the money that we have. That $300,000 was gift money. So once it's gone, it's gone. It's not something that's replaceable like the general fund or something. So if we look at the fund balances, which are the 4 lines at the very bottom. Negative is a good thing. Negative shows revenue, so showing that we expect to be at least at $2.5 million is a good thing for us. Again, we expect a couple $100,000 more, and I don't want to estimate any higher than that. We expect about $4.9 million in revenue coming in. If everything were spent out 100% at the $1.2 million, which we don't expect to spend necessarily, and the $650,000, we would expect to spend $6.8 million, which still leaves us the tiniest bit of money, the tiniest bit. So we know that we have to be really careful. We cannot spend that much money. We just don't have it to spend. Or we need to bring more money in than budgeted for that we could spend that money. Because if we had more money coming in, for example, Dawn's looked at a grant that's come to our attention from the state, $50,000 that could be spent on something like new carpeting or could be spent on something like the air handler unit. If that money came in at $50,000, that would be another chunk of money. There are no guarantees with grants, but you should know that we'll be looking. That's definitely something that we'll be on the lookout for. We also, there's something that the state has, the Live and Learn Library Grant, and that is something that we can take a look at applying for. We'll be at a place where we already will have all the specs and information needed to write the grant. Those are due generally in January, so we can't apply yet, but we'll be looking to see what other kinds of things, since this is capital expenses and infrastructure building, there might be other opportunities for us to apply. We have our foundation, and the foundation has money that they give to us, and it's in the donation line, but also we have money that the foundation has in their budget for things they're going to pay directly. So for example, Rachel and I met with one of our donors, Glenna Spitzy, who sponsored Megan's Garden and Megan's Room, and part of the cost that we've put forward is doing some renovations in Megan's Room. So we already have from Glenna $20,000 approximately. So we know that that $20,000 is going to go towards, and with her permission, she's already said yes, put that money towards the project cost. So that's $20,000 that doesn't show up as revenue in this because the foundation has agreed just to pay for that directly. There's also money that the library board received from a donor, Chris Shearer's former neighbor, about $115,000, that was bundled up with a $300,000 gift, Vincent Green's Low Vision Fund. Both of those monies were given to the foundation to put at Busey Bank and to earn interest on. So you could, as a board, tell me to go to the foundation and say, hey, it would be helpful to us to have that some amount of money back, and is there anything else in fund balance that the foundation would be willing to put towards these projects as well? And that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, and we will certainly be asking them to do more fundraising. They did do some fundraising in the fall for the Cirque AV area. Didn't bring a lot of money, but we knew it might not because we didn't have pictures or images to show people, and that's going to be exciting. So we do anticipate fundraising that will help defray the costs. Also, if we look at the next line, that special reserve fund, the special reserve fund is something that the state allows libraries to set up so you can put money aside for these big capital expenses. I am asking that we almost zero that out. Leon for IT has requested that we do a bunch of work that would have been in last month's packet, and part of the way to pay for that is to pull from the money we've set aside for that exact amount. We've been saving money every year between $13,000 and $26,000 a year, so it's not a ton of money, but it's a bunch of money. Again, it was about $55,000 for IT. I would like to pull the other bit of money out to put towards these building projects as well, because that's why it was put aside. The library trust fund, that is our gift money. So again, it's $561,000. That is what the fund balance might be. We expect to spend about $405,000. Again, $300,000 of that is the staff parking lot, and then Cirque AV, Megan's Room kind of work. And then the library building fund, unbeknownst to us, I will admit, we had a balance of $9,300 left in our fund balance from the property across the street. So that's money to the good, which is great because we had to pay to knock it down. So we are super happy. And because we don't use that fund anymore, I'm recommending that we just clear that out. We've got one last batch of taxes to pay and then have the rest of it move over. We would transfer it to the 802s and spend it again on these projects. So that is where everything stands. Now, the one piece of this you also want to know that we're being very thoughtful of is taxes come for us at 2 times of the year primarily, September and May, June. And at the end of the fiscal year, it always looks like we're sitting super pretty because we've got all this money sitting there, like $2.5 million. But that's the June money from money that we already spent January through June. If you think about it, September is the first amount of money that we get. And then we don't get money again until June. So we want to have a fund balance of about 6 to 9 months sitting there so we can keep paying the bills. So know that as we think about the proposal to potentially spend money, looking at other ways money could come in, we'll also look to cut costs in different areas. We are very well aware we need to have money to pay the bills. So we won't make any bad decisions because we still want to be open.
And pay our staff.
And pay our staff, yes. So there was one small change that moved a couple $100, $500 from an admin travel and training line. There had been no travel and training line for community engagement, so the city made that for us. So there's a $500 difference, so it's just moving money around. And then again, we changed the transfer to library operating fund from, it was in the $54,000 range to $77,000. And then the building fund went from the lower amount to basically the right amount, having all the projects in there, the $1.9 million at this point. Again, that would be an upper limit. Otherwise, it's the same as what you got Friday. We're trying to be as responsive as we can to the new information as it's coming in. But once you approve this tonight, or you say you're not approving it tonight and you're approving some different version of it, it goes to City Council and goes in the City Council budget book and is approved within their process. So what questions might you have for me?
I can't think of anything right now.
So just know now's the time to ask those questions because this is an action item for us, 8.3, that we're going to be voting on here shortly. So. All right. Any
What
other-
is the realistic nature of, between the foundation, what you said is potentially available right now to pull toward that, that remodel versus, in addition to what they'll raise, that it will cover a significant portion of this, that we will not end up having to drop that low?
We just got these initial, so I'm going to stop and say, we don't know that
that's
it's
still-
going to cost 1.2 million because we're just looking to see what they've recommended and how it fits in. So for example, there were some things that were like, we're not going to do that. Like I can tell you right now, that's not going to happen. That's $16,000 saved. So we're looking at, with the current plan as it's laid out, without the staff or you all having seen it, just like some high level things like, no, 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 these things are yeses, and they're coming back to us with new numbers, and then we can talk about things like they're proposing, again, as a starting point, like good and middle of the road furnishings and covers versus serviceable. There's some things that can be more serviceable versus like, it's gotta be super high end. So maybe it's not marble, maybe it's a laminate that works just as fine. So we're still in the process of where we can do cost cutting to get a more realistic number.
But
And
the
at least,
number here, I just, to
Yeah.
make sure I'm understanding.
Yes.
The number here is like assuming that we are paying for it in full out of what we have. That
Correct.
We're not getting any of that assistance.
correct. And I do believe that we will get assistance because in part the $125,000 that came from Chris's neighbor, whose name I wish I could remember right now, but I'm blanking on, it was for renovation or expansion. Like that's what it was for. So if you were to tell me to ask the foundation for it, I expect that they would say yes. So that's money right there. And I think that this is an exciting opportunity for the foundation to do fundraising for something that's going to help the community in such a way. I think that will be exciting for them. And it could be that we phase the project. It could be that part of it happens now and then part of it happens in another year or something. But those are, we have, Dawn and Rachel and I have already got a quick decision tree. Okay, if this, then that. But this all happened as of Wednesday last week, so moving, pedaling fast. And you're being asked to approve a thing that's pedaling fast too. We appreciate all the questions.
Great.
I guess my question is regarding, because of the fact that we're kind of what the budget might be. We are capable of amending issues as they come up during the fiscal year, correct?
Yes, you can amend the budget, but if you don't ask to spend it out of fund balance, you generally don't. That's why we're going for the higher ask now, so that it's super clear that this could be, like, this is the worst case scenario, knocking on wood, so that when we come in under that, we're all gonna be super happy.
And we'll have monies left over so that if something else pops up, yeah, okay. I just wanna try to understand the fact that we can still, make amendments where needed, if we need to.
There are definitely some places where we can make amendments, yes. And again, thinking that we won't spend likely half of the $650,000, that's a $325,000 buffer. Also knowing that we need to find it for the next year too.
Yeah.
So we're definitely, with all the changes that we're making with our front of house, back of house model, we know that we're gonna be more efficient. We definitely wanna do some different staffing with the current staff we have, but we still think we're gonna have savings even on top of that, because it just is gonna take less time to do the same work.
Great. Any other questions?
I have one more question. Regarding I know we don't have the cafe thing anymore.
Correct.
But you still have a list on your thing here for cafe revenues, which is zilch.
Right.
So what are we gonna do with that? Are we going to ever pop that back up and try to do the Barnes and Noble thing? Or are we going to sell that equipment, store that equipment, put that equipment in a kiosk in Lincoln Square?
We just sold it.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's gone.
Okay.
Gloria, did you have a question?
Just a quick question. It looks like maybe just, the only thing that stuck out to me when I was looking at stuff was, I think the zeroing out of the staff salary line that used to be 768.
Yes.
It looked like combining it
Yes.
with the other one to put it over 1 million. Is that like a subcategory that you're getting rid of?
So what we have done is created a public services department, which is taking staff from adult and youth services and circulation, and we needed to put it in one line or the other. So we thought we'd make it easier for Brian, who's going to be responsible for collections, to just leave in the adult and youth services area the collections money. So we moved out the travel and training and put it in circulation. We moved out the people and put them in circulation, except the part of the people that move to collections as well, which is the group of people that used to be called shelvers and are now library assistant ones. So yeah, you saw it exactly right.
Along with that, I was kind of, I'm glad Gloria asked that, because I was kind of guessing, that's where that moved to. There were also two other in the 806 salary line and the 809 salary line that jumped up, and just wondering if that was additional hires or just like standard pay increases across the board.
That's the shelvers. So there were standard pay increases across the board. Everyone got the 3% to the base, as well as if they qualified for step increases. And then we moved like 20 people over from circulation into the 806s, which is the collections now. It says acquisition still, but we're calling it collections now.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you guys for taking such a close look at that. Okay, we are going to move on to our action items, our consent agenda. So I will read off the list. Does anybody want to separate anything from the consent agenda tonight? Okay, here is.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just had a quick question about that too. Since it was something, since I mentioned Amarin earlier, and usually it stands out as an individual thing, but I saw that it was rolled into the other one now. Just, is that the norm from here out?
We can hope. I think it's gonna depend on.
I'm fine with it, I was just curious, I was like.
At certain parts of the year, it's like more gas, and other parts of the year, it's more electricity.
Yes.
And then we did notice though, right Becky, that we got different right? Or it was a new supplier. So we know that in the last round of bills, that new cooperative agreement that the, Scott has told us about kicked in. And I think that's helping for sure.
Under the 10,000.
Yep.
Yeah, it got.
Oh, it's because I see, it was only separated because it went above the threshold.
Above the 10,000,
Got it.
right, so as long as it's
But
under
that means it's
10,000,
under 10,000.
we don't
It's
see it.
a good thing if I don't see it,
Which
got it.
one of things
Yes,
to celebrate, right?
yes,
Right.
exactly.
Jeez Louise.
That's what we did when, at our agenda meeting, it was Ameren is not on the list, let's just celebrate it, so. Good question,
It's the
okay.
first time I've ever seen it not there.
Finally got it under 10.
Okay, so, I'm gonna be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which will contain the following. The board meeting minutes of April 11th, 2023, payroll for April 21, 2023, totaling $106,933.41. Payroll May 5, 2023, totaling $105,406.03. I feel like an auctioneer. Bills for April 13th, 2023, totaling $48,619.44. Bills for April 14, 2023, totaling $200. Bills for April 21st, 2023, totaling $10,682.09. Bills for April 28, 2023, totaling $16,310.28. And finally, bills for May 5th, 2023, totaling $39,761.89. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there a second? Thanks, Sharice.
Second.
Is all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Our consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to our individual action items. 8.1, list of regularly scheduled monthly board meetings for fiscal year 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Beth. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Gloria. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have a schedule for fiscal year 24. Next up, we have the annual review and designation of non-resident card fees. This was in your board packet. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Sharice. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mark. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's approved. Okay, the big one, 8.3, our fiscal year 24 budget. Is there a motion to approve the budget?
So moved.
Thank you, Erica. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Beth. Is there any further discussion on the budget? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, we have an approved budget. All right, 8.4, we have a fiscal year 23 budget amendment. Celeste, is there anything that we needed to
In the
speak to?
director's report, just moving some funds around to let people spend out the money in different ways.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Thanks, Sharice. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll take that from Jane that time. Any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Wonderful. Moving right along, we have a draft for the leave policy for May 2023, just some changes. These were just with the organizational change, right? Is that, oh no, this was the one about the personal days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aligning with what the law
The law,
says we can do.
yes. Okay,
I had a question about that. It was confusing. I don't know how they're distinguishing personal from vacation days, but it seemed like one was approved, or one was paid out and the other was not.
Correct. So currently in our policy, it states clearly if you have sick days and you separate from the library, you're not paid out except you're in a special plan. If you have vacation days, you are paid out. And if you have personal leave, it's silent. State law says institutions do not need to pay out personal leave. Personal leave you can take, it's 24 hours a year, drop of a hat, any reason, any point in time. Vacation days, we prefer that people give us some type of notice, which is handled at the departmental level. So they're used in different ways.
Is there a motion to approve the leave changes? All right, I think I heard Erica first. I'll take Erica as the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jane. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now we have the changes to the whistleblower policy. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Beth. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Gloria, I think, on that one. I'll take her. Any further discussion on the whistleblower policy? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we have resolution 2023-08 to accept the ARPA grant, IGA. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Sharice. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And finally, we have an invoice for $11,975.85. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval of the invoice.
Thank you, Jane. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sharice. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That takes us to our discussion. Gloria, do you have a presentation for us?
I do.
While Gloria gets ready, can I twist anybody's arm to commit to the following month?
Any volunteers for June? We've had some really wonderful discussions.
Might be better for July, if I can.
I think I just heard Beth volunteer for July.
I've been looking and I just, well, I might be able to breathe by July.
Yeah.
But realistically, no, not by June, in July.
Sharice, you got any ideas?
This was my idea.
I know, Sharice has to like
I said
contact
we
you
could
about
do
a week
2.0.
after for the exact same time.
But that's okay, I brought some of my stuff for her to, it's like, hopefully, we can discuss even further.
All right, before I get started, I want to make sure, front and center, take one, take two. It's a great album. All right, so I'm going to pull up
That is gorgeous.
the slides.
Very cool. Those were the publicity pictures for that went in the book. Oh gosh.
I don't use PowerPoint a lot or PDF a lot to present. Okay. All right, so income inequality and libraries, a light treatment. So as I think folks know, income inequality in the United States has been growing astronomically, and in fact has been increasing consistently for the past 30 years. So for the past 3 decades, this impacts our community in a variety of different ways, including increased poverty, decrease in economic mobility, and also an increase in the achievement gap. And one of the things that Sharice brought today is actually a highlight of just how significant that achievement gap has grown locally in the community. This is an article from the News Gazette from back in November that outlined that 68.5% of Urbana's K-12 students come from low-income families, while 45% of Champaign's K-12 fall into that category. And poor performance can be seen kind of across the school districts. And we know that, the COVID pandemic had an adverse disproportional effect on low-income communities that have been historically marginalized or underrepresented or not brought to the table or under-resourced. And the way that this article talks about how that has impacted the academic achievement gap is saying that test score results reveal that coronavirus lockdowns caused white and Asian students to catch an education cold, while Black and Hispanic students contracted pneumonia. So everyone is sick. It's just kind of a degree of how sick. And with each of these things, the library serves a really critical role at the front lines of addressing economic inequality and forwarding economic justice. So some of the services that, based on the articles that I've read and what I've seen also in our library, that folks are doing to facilitate economic justice for patrons is by removing barriers to library and information services. So this includes things like getting rid of library fees altogether, bridging the digital divide through computer labs, et cetera, and also addressing the literacy gap, whether that's by hosting things in-house, like with Project Read, for example, that we do here, or helping people kind of facilitate their progress on different learning goals. It also includes promoting materials that honestly focus on the issues of poverty, engage people in a respectful way, and are practical to low-income patrons. I actually would love to hear if folks have like explicit or concrete examples of what does it mean to have practical materials for low-income patrons. Another one is provide patrons with opportunities to develop the skills needed in a changing economy, whether that's librarians helping folks look for job opportunities, prepare their resumes, et cetera, all sorts of things like that. And really, we want to continue to be a place where people from all different walks of life can visit and interact in the library as a space. And this starts with, or one of the ways that this can happen is operating as a community health hub. So with some of the factors that economic inequality has increased, like poverty and the achievement gap, et cetera, a lot of times this can come with other just general stress, general anxiety, mental health stresses, and so it's really important as we continue to be a community center and a community hub that staff are equipped to address these different things and challenges, including, for example, considering pursuing mental health first aid, so that can be administered to patrons in the library. There are libraries around the country that are starting to look into and have actually hired social workers who are trained to respond to some of the challenges that different patrons coming into the library may face at different times. And of course, we want to continue to train and equip both staff members and board members to be advocating for ongoing funding and legislation to make sure that these efforts are sustainable. I just have 3 quick examples that I found from different libraries around the country of what they're doing. So one is in Skokie, Illinois, they used to, I can't quite tell if it's still active, a civic lab, which offers responsive information, activities, and discussion on issues facing the community. So examples of what they've done are preparing handouts for people on like how do you identify a credible news source, how do you find reliable information, for example, and also doing community panels in response to different parts of the cultural calendar, for example, or different issues that are important to the community at any different moment. And I know that I think the library hosts a lot of those events or provides space for a lot of those events to happen, but I think we could also initiate a lot more of those events. I mentioned the bit with social worker. I think maybe the McGraw Library or maybe the McGraw District in Central High, I forget exactly. A library in Indianapolis was the first in the nation to hire a social worker, and they've seen a lot of incredible benefits from that, including connecting patrons with mental health resources, resourcing patrons who are dealing with housing insecurity, coordinating with community partners to make sure that all of those different trusted connections can be built to and from the library. And then also pay it forward, which is something that we don't really have need for anymore here, but this is something where I think they were trying to get creative with like, we don't really have the budget to completely offset fees. What's a different way we can do it? Let's collect donations from the community to offset fees for patrons. So that's it. Charisse, do you want to add anything from your articles?
Well, the thing is that what I found, because and I did go and research the numbers, because it's an opinion piece. What I found that really, I guess, bothered me, mainly when I think about what the library does, because we do that. We already kind of partner with the Cunningham Township And Cunningham Township has social workers and so forth, but we partner with them, that's a good thing that we do. But regarding like how to close that gap, there's just so much, in my opinion, that a library can do. One of those things that a library can do is to try to expose children, and particularly from probably 3rd grade on up, to other different professions. Most kids don't get out of their 10-block radius of where they live. Most children, it's not like, and I always say this, when I was in elementary school, which was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, where parents helped to chaperone the field trip. And we can say that the income gap wasn't as huge as it is now. So a parent could take off of work to go on a trip to Chicago with their child to the Field Museum. They don't even do that now. You know, that's the scary thing. When I was in elementary school and middle school and high school, we weren't expected to be done with our field trip by the end of the school day. Parents showed up at 7 o'clock at night to come and pick up their kids coming back, and there wasn't a problem. And not only that, there's just been so many things that have happened within our education system. So I think that there's really only so much that a library can do, but one of those things that can be done is to try to broaden the horizons virtually with books, any other kind of way so that a child sees more than just what's right in their little space, because it is a very small space. And I don't know how we would go about doing that. I don't know, how we go about doing it more than we already do. But I know that the biggest issue, I think we have to deal with is trying to do that on some level. And because when I was reading these articles, it's no wonder to me that there is such a gap in all of these areas, because school districts, teachers, people who work with children are afraid to actually take it any further, based on a lot of lawsuits that have happened, how the liability we've become such a litigious culture now, that the things that I think about, the things that we did, oh my gosh, what when I was in high school, every year the chorus went to Chicago to see a musical, and Miss Nanny would take us to the water tower and say, okay, meet us back at the bus at such and such a time. And you can't do that now. You'd be afraid to do that now. But that was how that was done. And she trusted that parents and maybe one other teacher that was chaperoning, we would go through Water Tower and Marshall Fields and everything else. We might even sneak outside and go someplace else outside of Water Tower, but we would be back at that bus at 6 o'clock. And nowadays that doesn't seem to be possible, and I know that it's probably kind of the same issue even here with dealing with a particular population here in the library. You have to be mindful of how certain students, people, so on and so forth, are going to what they choose to take advantage of and what they choose not to. But I think there may be some direction that, just to try to just broaden children's horizons. That's the only thing I can say that I think that the library can do. So.
Yeah, I always tell people how much I love the Urbana Library and how much
Well, and to follow up with that, I think the timing of presenting this, and I'm grateful to all of you for kind of helping us bring these discussion topics. We have a lot of business to attend to, but some of these discussions and thoughts, especially as we're going into our strategic plan refresh, because everything you talked about aligns with our pillars. You know, it aligns right there with embrace and enrich and empowering our community, which is a role that we play. No, we cannot take on all of the problems of our community, but we certainly have an opportunity to play that role. So as we're getting feedback from our community members, and as you know, we're looking at the responses, but also as a board, aligning what those priorities are, we should be thinking specifically about these things, and how we can, you know, where we put our energy, and kind of how we help direct the mission of what we're trying to do. So it was great timing to start thinking about those things, and I hope you guys will keep thinking about that when we sit down as a board and say, hey, what do you guys think, you know, this summer when we're having those conversations about the strategic plan. So, okay, any other discussion? Okay, so we are still looking for somebody for June. I don't know, Erica might not know a lot about what we're doing, so maybe we can talk to her a little bit afterwards, but okay. And we may just take a month off for the summer, but yeah. So thank you, I really enjoy these discussions. I think it's tremendous, so. Thank you, Gloria and Sharice, for your contributions. We appreciate it. Okay, gang, it's getting late. We're gonna run through the rest of this. So we have some reports. Do we have a report from the Friends?
A quick report, they did not meet this month, but a reminder that they're gonna have their book sale June 22nd to June 25th, spend early and often.
And it was a gift from the Friends that brought us
us
our
tables.
tables, which are wonderful. They do brighten up the space.
Yeah.
The tables.
They are so much easier for staff to use, that they flip up and stack and store. You don't have to pick them up and flip them around. And
Just
they're pretty.
they're gorgeous,
Yeah,
yes.
beautiful.
They're a little high. My seat was, ooh, something's different. But they're gorgeous. So thank you to the Friends for that. Do we have a foundation report?
Yes, a quick update to just emphasize what Celeste shared earlier, that the foundation is accepting applications for new board members. So please help get the word out. If you have someone who is interested, there is a link on the website on the foundation board's webpage. And then the other thing is some really great news for celebration. As of May 1st, the foundation has raised just over $86,000 this fiscal year.
Whoa, yay.
Yay. Thank you for that. All right, do we have an IHLS update?
Just real brief, it seems to be budgeting time for everyone. The IHLS fiscal year 24 draft budget and operational plan is on their website if anyone's interested in taking a look, and they are asking for comments on it. So that is also on the website.
Thank you. Do we have anything else from the administrative report?
Super fast, just to say how proud I am of all the work that's being done by staff. Lots of changes coming, lots of great ideas being brought forward. People are sharing their opinions and ideas, and really working together to operationalize the front of house, back of house models. And again, thanks to Rachel and Don for really spearheading this initiative. Good work.
Excellent, thank you. I don't believe we have any board or committee reports tonight. As far as a board president report, I don't have anything other than just to reiterate my ask that one, we are sharing with our social networks and our personal networks the community survey information, so we can get that spread out widely, so we can hear from as many patrons and community members as possible. And Celeste mentioned earlier, we are looking for new board members, so also getting that word out and finding folks that love the library. So just a last reminder on that. Any unfinished business? Any new business to bring before the board? Oh, thank goodness. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight?
So moved.
Thanks, Beth. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.